Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars will not be successful. That's what many articles and people online are saying. Why? Because these films are built on flops and characters that people don't know. So just like the entire Avengers Phase 1? What's your point? So I've seen this sentiment brought up many times. People have sent me articles, videos, pictures of Marvel fan pages and comic book fan pages and Comic News First or whatever all those pages are called, right? And there's this growing sentiment that talks about how the MCU will not make the same amount of money that they expect to make with Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars because they're building these films up with flops. Films that can barely make more than $400 million and are struggling to make anywhere close to $1 billion. And for this section, I'm going to call this the MCU Infinity Glaze because I find it ironic and funny that most of the MCU never, ever hit more than $1 billion. That is an exception with only the biggest films. Most of their films made between 4 to 650 million, and a lot of their films, especially in Phase 1, a good chunk of them, literally the majority, were flops. So we are in this interesting stage now where the people that were saying the MCU is going to flop with X, Y, and Z, and we're constantly for the better part of the 15 years making articles, videos, and talking about how the MCU would fail with Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Guardians of the Galaxy, Ant-Man, of course Iron Man before he even started, Doctor Strange. Now they are the ones saying that these are timeless franchises, that the magic of them could never be recaptured by the modern MCU because of the grift. So let's talk about how the MCU was built on failure. Okay, so let's quickly use Phase 1 as an example. So here goes the release order of the films. You have Iron Man 1, which was an unexpected victory. You had immediately after it The Incredible Hulk, which is a masterclass of a flop. That was followed by Iron Man 2, which, despite revisionist history now, go back and read old articles and go back and find old forums where people were discussing Iron Man 2. Guess what? There was never going to be an Avengers. There was never going to be an Iron Man 3. There was never going to be more Iron Man or more War Machine because the film was hated by the fans. And yeah, it is a step down in quality, a massive one, but again, this sentiment about the MCU dying started with The Incredible Hulk and was cemented by fans online with Iron Man 2. There's even trades that were talking about how it's not going to be successful. And then, the next two offerings, Captain America, The First Avenger, and Thor, releasing 3 months apart in the same year, guess what happened with both of those? Both flopped. With budgets of $180 million, both struggled to barely eke out close to $400 million. How were the reviews? Captain America sitting around a 6.5 average, and Thor closer to a 5.7. So, in the entire MCU, up to this point before the Avengers, only Iron Man is considered a film that people like and genuinely were happy with. So, do you guys see the problem with revisionist history and the Marvel Phase 1 glaze, and how now nostalgia and revisionist history has changed everybody's perception of everything? Because, again, the films I just mentioned all built up Avengers 1. And if you go look at the box office predictions for Avengers before it came out, the total box office sum was expected to be $600 million. They thought that the failure of Cap, Thor, Iron Man 2, and Hulk was going to hold Iron Man back, and that this was essentially being looked at as Iron Man 3, and this was it. They were going to be over because of the huge investment that didn't work. How did that pan out? How did that pan out, I ask you? Oh, It panned out in a $1.5 billion box office total that then brought in characters like Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, Guardians of the Galaxy, and so forth, and now we are where we are. And I bring this up because, again, people like to conveniently ignore the facts. So let's talk about how any failures that have happened since Avengers Endgame will not hold back Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So the growing sentiment I see is that Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars will be considered flops, since each film is more or less going to have a final budget with marketing and everything that's close to $750-ish million, meaning they're probably looking at $1 billion to even break even, which, again, whether they make it or not, you'd have to be stupid to believe they're not going to make it, is a lot, right? But again, they know what they have. And I see this growing sentiment that they can't recapture the magic of Phase 1. What magic? Didn't I just prove to you with a simple chart and an explanation that there was no magic? There was still doubt. We're at the part where everybody apparently always knew that Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be a huge hit, including people that are making video essays and articles now that literally, if you look through their history, were the ones saying, this is it, the MCU is dead with X, Y, and Z. But now they're huge fans of this. Because again, history repeats itself, and what you gotta do is hate the new thing and like the old thing. Give it enough time, everything that was hated will be liked. Do you need proof of this? Look at the Star Wars prequels. When I was growing up, anytime I bought or wanted anything prequel for my birthday or the holidays, everybody was like, those films are dumb, kid. Why you like them? Where's the prequels today? Loved by everybody that grew up at the time. The same thing is already happening with some MCU properties. And in another 15 years, they're going to look back at many of the missteps that have happened, just like they looked at Thor and Captain America and go, you know what? Maybe we were a little harsh about these. So Doomsday and Secret Wars flopping, that argument doesn't hold any water, because people say, well, here you go. People aren't just going to show up for cameos. Oh, really? Oh, really? Because wasn't it you guys that made Deadpool and Wolverine a $1.3 billion hit because of cameos? Didn't Spider-Man No Way Home make $2 billion off of nostalgia? Multiverse of Madness, $900 million off of cameos? What's going on here is that these people, articles, and videos are preying on stupid fans who will just fall in line and not question anything. They'll listen to their narrative. They're not going to question if their representation of history is right or wrong. They're just there because the cult of personality. And if they tell them to squawk, they will squawk. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.